Do you remember Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing? I know the Trump presidency has only been a few weeks, although it feels like a few years, but if we think back on that hearing, it wasn't just a conversation about how unqualified Pete Hegseth was or how personally flawed he was, but whether he could do the job because of a habit he had at Fox, which was drinking on the job. And that habit has come into question again as Pete Hegseth continues to demonstrate that he cannot be our Secretary of Defense. And it was asked in a hearing today, and it just led to an explosion in that room, a complete meltdown that we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into that clip, first, I want to check out how Pete Hegseth responded when he was asked just a couple months ago.
I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work, including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know
that run
that
directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to
is
the dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated
Channel
I'm
who
not
I work
hearing-
with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record
question.
and said they've
In your
never
opening
seen
statement,
that.
Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course. And frankly, as Secretary, you will be on the job 24/7. You recently promised some of my Republican colleagues that you stopped drinking and won't drink if confirmed, correct?
Absolutely.
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job, which is a 24/7 position?
I've made this commitment on behalf of
Will
the
you
men and women I'm
resign as
serving.
Secretary of Defense
I've
if
made this
you
commitment
drink
on
on the
behalf of
job?
the men and women I'm serving
I'm not
because it's the
hearing-
most important deployment
I'm not
of my
hearing an
life.
answer to my question, so I'm going to move on. While you have made that commitment, you will not commit to resigning if you drink on the job.
So I didn't really hear a no there from Pete Hegseth, just defensive and angry and spiteful. I wonder why. Maybe it's because he knew exactly what he would be doing as soon as he got that job. He wouldn't be pretending anymore. He'd go back to being good old Pete Hegseth, the type of guy that puts soldiers' lives in jeopardy with his bad decisions and lack of care, which is exactly what was questioned in a hearing today, and it absolutely blew up the room. Let's take a look.
Like something of this magnitude, it's something that you would not forget. It's something that most people, if you're taking this job so seriously, that you would not forget. I mean, since I've been on this committee, there's been days that I have woken up in the middle of the night from the things I learned in SCIF. So deciding to use military force is something hard to imagine. So the do not recall doesn't pass the smell test. It makes it, it's unbelievable that was the case. So that's what the American people don't understand. And I know a lot of folks in this administration were saying that they're going to take on the establishment and drain the swamp, but you have become that swamp in a matter of days, not weeks or months, days. So one of the things we're going to look into is what actually occurred, because the American people deserve a full accounting. Additionally, the main person who was involved in this thread that a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
You know, no, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue.
Was his performance compromised because of a successful
I yield
strike?
back, Mr. I bring my.
You want to know? You want
time.
to talk about accepting
I reclaim my
responsibility?
time.
Do you think you
I
should
reclaim
accept
my time, Mr.
responsibility
Chairman.
for a successful
Let me ask
strike
you-
to make Americans safer?
I
You want to
reclaim my
focus
time.
on.
I reclaim my time. So here's the thing. This is serious. As somebody, we've been briefed in this committee about using Signal. One of the things they basically said, the most secure phone call, the least secure text messaging. And we know that your people, Russians, Chinese, are on your phone.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein.
How is that an inappropriate question? This was one of the defining points of his confirmation hearing, whether that he'd have the mental capacity to do the job because he might be drunk. That's a real concern. That is an actual real concern. And it's not just of Democrats and the media, as Republicans keep saying. It's soldiers who are putting their lives on the line, directed by Pete Hegseth, and they don't know if they're taking orders from a guy who's 4 gin and tonics deep. They cannot trust their Secretary of Defense. Now, not only does that put their lives at risk because Pete Hegseth is making wild decisions, but it also jeopardizes the strength of our military if we can't trust its leadership. That is very, very scary, especially when we see Pete Hegseth acting like this, which is a good indication of where he may be at with his drinking.
This is what we're here to do. Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning, out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day. I looked at them this morning. I looked at attack plans this morning. You know who?
Someone commented this below one of my recent videos about Pete Hegseth, that he's a little extra lately. There's kind of more going on. Everything's a little jittery. Now, I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm not going to claim to be. I'm also not suggesting that Pete Hegseth currently might have had a couple. But hey, Republicans love to just ask questions. I don't think it hurts if we do. Maybe the question isn't, was Pete Hegseth drunk? Maybe it's like, when was the last time he wasn't? I don't know. I don't want to suggest these things, but seriously, why can't I? Why shouldn't I be able to? We need to ask these questions. More importantly, we need these questions answered, which is the last thing that Pete Hegseth wants to do. We saw in that little press gaggle he had, he ran away at the end when asked questions. So it's time to investigate, which Democrats are calling for. We can see that right here.
Accountability is back. Accountability is back. I quote Secretary Pete Hegseth. That was our Secretary of Defense on the record just a couple of months ago. Now the debate among national security professionals is over whether the Secretary was just incompetent or whether he was drunk. That's how low this has gone, and those are serious debates happening among national security professionals today. Because my colleagues are right. This put American lives at risk. This cheapens the work that our men and women on the front lines of our armed services and our intelligence agencies do every single day. Because it says the rules that apply to you don't apply to us as your leaders. There's a simple concept that I would have thought Pete Hegseth would have learned in the National Guard, which is leadership by example. Well, let me tell you, if any guardsman at any level, including the most junior private, had done what Pete Hegseth did, he would not only be fired, would not only lose his security clearance, but he would probably be criminally prosecuted.
We need answers. Like I said, people's lives aren't just in danger because Pete Hegseth is making dangerous decisions. People's lives are in danger because there's certainly a loss of trust within our military. We've already seen reporting on it. Concern from top officials on whether or not our channels of communication are secure, that Pete Hegseth is making his own conscious decisions. I'm serious. This is scary. He's got to resign. And that is exactly what Senator Chris Murphy said right here.
Pete Hegseth needs to resign. There needs to be accountability right now. Because every hour that goes by with no accountability, American credibility all around the world is being destroyed. There are two scandals here. You know the first one, the release of these war plans to a reporter, detailed war plans. It compromised the security of that mission. It put our soldiers and airmen in grave danger. There's a level of stunning incompetence within our national security infrastructure today. But the bigger scandal is the gaslighting, is the fact that the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, the director of national intelligence, think that the American people are so dumb as to make the claim that they didn't actually send war plans when we've all seen the war plans, to make the claim that there was no classified information. What's classified if not for detailed strike information about a mission in the Middle East? This is gaslighting and fabrication at the highest level. And if there is not accountability for the incompetence and the lying, then our reputation and our credibility will be smashed forever.
Pete Hegseth has to go. This is not even political. It is about keeping our country safe. And that's it. Plain and simple. This is not a political thing. If this was a Democratic administration, Democrats would be calling for this guy to go. Well, he would never be there in the first place because we don't hire Fox hosts. Love you, Jessica Tarlov, but I don't think you or I believe you think you can be the Secretary of Defense. Or maybe not. Maybe Jessica's got some experience. I don't know, but we probably wouldn't go down that lane. This guy's got to go. We're calling him out every single day on the show. And if you want to support that and support independent media, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.